Alright, so we're working on a 2005 Toyota Sienna minivan. Needs a wheel bearing. Just actually passed Missouri State inspection. And she had a brake problem with it. And she brought it to me. She just bought this off a car lot. And anyway, the rear wheel speed sensor was acting up on it. The garage that she bought it from, or the lot, agreed to fix that. And anyway, they passed Missouri State inspection. This wheel bearing's super loose on it. I'll clip in a video of me testing it out after I'm done here in a second. So we're just going to get right into it. It's one of those press-in style bearings. It seems like I've done about 100 of these the last few weeks or last few months. There's different ways to do this. I'm going to use the press. And today I'm going to use a slide hammer to remove the hub. In the past videos I've turned it upside down and used the drift and punch these hubs out. Either way works. I'll show you the slide hammer way today, hopefully. And if you want to do it the other way, if you don't have a slide hammer, you can look up my Hyundai or Kia or Honda wheel bearing videos, and I show you how to pull this hub off just using a regular race driver and a mini sled, just pull it off. So the first thing we're going to do is pin these brakes out of the way, and it's 14 mil on these for the caliper. So we're going to go ahead and remove those first and pin them out of the way. Once you get the bolts out, I use these brake hooks. Anything will work if you have a bungee cord or whatever. Or if you want to spend the money, you can get the brake hooks too. So the next thing we're going to do is remove this caliper bracket, and I believe that is a 17. Yes, it's a 17. So there's two bolts that hold it on the back, and we're going to snatch those off real quick. That one's tight. Take the extension off and see if this usually rips them right off. Surprise. If I'm on a low setting or what? Try it on 3. Wow, these are really tight. I'm surprised. Usually these come right off with this. I've only had a few things that the earthquake couldn't take off. Alright, I'm going to put out its misery. Pretty surprised. Usually this thing will rip them right off. Alright, so once you get those off, you can leave your brake pads on and just kind of move it off to the side. Now, these Toyotas and Hondas and stuff, some of them have holes in the rotor to remove them. This looks like a brand new rotor, so I guess it hasn't had time to rust around it and kind of seat. So this one slid right off. If yours doesn't slide right off, you can put some bolts in here and press down on them, and it will or screw them in, and it'll pull that off. So now we have the axle nut we'll take off real quick, and that's going to be the 30 millimeter with the 12 point or whatever. Alright, so I turn it off because that compressor kicked on. Next thing I do after I get that nut off is I go ahead and pull the speed sensor off. There's a 10mm bolt back here where the speed sensor goes into the hub or into the steering knuckle. Just go ahead and pull that off, and then here's your speed sensor. It should slide out, and once it does that, just kind of put it off to the side somewhere safe. This is goes onto the knuckle here, and it's just plastic, and you just pull on each end and that'll come right off. So I'm going to pull the hub real quick. I have a hub puller hooked to a slide hammer, and like I said, there's other ways to do this. If you don't have the slide hammer or the hub puller, or you don't want to rent it, you can check out my other videos on how to do it. I'll kind of go over it when I get this one off. This is another way to do it. Put a big slide hammer on the end of the hub puller there, and then we'll start hammering this off. Hopefully it should come off. Yeah, it's coming. There you go. So that's one way to get this hub off. And there's other ways. Like I said, I'll go over it. Sorry, I keep repeating myself. Anyway, you can see it's pretty rusty. We got to get this race off here still, and then we got to finish pulling this hub off. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off the hub and get the slide hammer put away, and then we had the ball joint, tie rod, and strut mount, and then it's ready to come off. All right, I'm just going to go for the tie rod next. You have a cotter pin on there. I've already taken that off. It should be a 17mm nut. Pretty much everything I think is 17 on this. Well, the ball joint, the braided caliper, and the tie rod are all 17 from the factory. Now, of course, we got aftermarket stuff. Sometimes they change the nut sizes. You go ahead and pull the nut off if you get the cotter pin out. And normally you just gotta kind of beat on the knuckle a little bit, and it should release it. If it doesn't, we'll get the tie rod puller. Alright, this one's being kind of stubborn, so we'll get the tie rod puller instead of breaking something or marring something. Alright, I got it off. I actually gave it a few more persuasive hits before I got that out and it came off. So if you hit it right against the knuckle where it goes in, it should pop out pretty easily. So now your bottom ball joint is 3 17mm bolts. So we'll go for those next, and then all we should have left is this upper knuckle here. Alright, so those three are out. I'm not going to try to take it apart yet. I'm going to go ahead and take off the strut mount first, and then we'll just pull it right out, hopefully, if everything goes as planned. So those are 22mm on the top here for the strut. You may have to tap those out a little bit. They shouldn't be too bad though. Give it a little persuasion. Don't beat on too hard. If they don't come out, put the nut back on. These came right out. So, all right. So now everything should be loose. So we should be able to just pull this off. Pull it out of there like that, and well, it's got a lot of brake dust and rust and stuff in here, so we'll go ahead and take it over to the bench and start pulling this bearing out. You see here's the inside of the bearing. Alright, so once you get the hub off, you have this ring on here that goes inside the by the bearing, and it covers up the ring, the snap ring you need to get to. The bearing did not come with a new one, so you got to be kind of careful with this. You don't want to tear it up too bad. So what I did to get it out, you know, it's down here like this, and I just took a small thing and just went around it and kind of tapped on it, and it finally came out. Like I said, don't get too rough with it if you don't get a new one. I think some of the bearings come with this new, but this one doesn't. So try to be as careful as possible. Now this has got a ring down in here. It's kind of like a snap ring, but doesn't have like the normal snap ring ends. And normally what I do is just kind of get a screwdriver down in there and pry it out. This one's got a lot of grease and stuff in it. Really tight. Once you get it started though, they usually come out pretty easily. This one's really got a lot of rust down here. I've sprayed some cleaner down in it and all that good stuff, and it really didn't. We'll get a different tool real quick and we'll try a different route with this. This one's really rusty and dirty. Alright, so I got it out. You can see here it doesn't have like a regular snap ring holes, it's just got the little notches. So usually I can get a screwdriver and just kind of knock and pull it up. This one was real tight, so I just used snap ring pliers, compressed it in a little bit, and got my screwdriver under there and went around it. So once this is out, you're technically ready to press this bearing out. You can see how dirty it is. So we're going to take it over to the press and we'll press this thing out and get the new one back in. Alright, once you get set up in the press, just simply pressing it out. This one looks pretty stubborn, it's pretty rusty, but you know, they'll come eventually. So all you want to do is get like a cup or something set up underneath here to catch the bearing, and then you put something that will push the bearing. This is the new bearing here, and you're just going to put something like this over it to push it down and push it out. So this one's almost out, and I'll kind of show it to you, and then we'll flip it over and put the new one in, and that one's out. They like to pop when they come out. So that one's out. We'll go ahead and take this over back over, take a look at it. I'll probably clean up the inner part a little bit. I normally put a little bit of grease in here, not so much to grease the bearing. The bearings are greased internally, but I put a little grease inside here just to let the new bearing go in a little bit smoother. And then yeah, we'll flip it over and start pressing the new one in. So you can see here it kind of fell apart when you push it out. A lot of times they do that, especially if they're in bad shape. Sometimes they'll come out all in one piece. This is the actual bearing, the outer end of it that's out. So you can see it, just press it out. So all I'm going to do now is clean up the inside of this a little bit and grease it down, and then we'll start pressing the new one in. And I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but if you don't have a press, a lot of shops don't have presses, but you can take it if you have a machine shop close to you. Some auto parts stores actually have presses. It just depends. Actually, I want to say 3 of the shops I worked at professionally did not have presses. We sent it all out to the machine shop. But anyway, if you're, depending on what area you're in, machine shop will definitely do it for you. I think ours charges about $60 or $70 to press them in and out. And I don't know what the other places charge. That's probably about pretty average. If you work on cars quite a bit, a press may not be a bad investment. But anyway, if you either way, if you take this off and take it to the machine shop, you'll save quite a bit of money. So that's an option. If you don't have a press or access to a press, just take this off and take it to a machine shop, and they'll do it for you. Press the new bearing in and out. So anyway, I'm going to get it ready, and then we'll just press this new one back in and do that. Alright, it doesn't apply to Toyota, but some of these speed sensors read off of the actual bearing, and one side of this will be magnetic and the other side isn't. This doesn't. This is just a normal. It's the same on both sides. The speed sensor reads off of your axle on the Toyotas, but just to be mindful, if you do a bearing on a press-in style bearing, read the instructions if it comes with it, because some of them do have a way in which they go in. Now this one you can put in either other way. So you're just going to put it in there, and then you're going to find something that will go all the way around to the outer side of this race, but not all the way to where it won't go down in there. So once we get it something that will fit, it's just a matter of pressing it back in. I still have to cut that hub, the race off the hub. I'll show you that real quick too. Let me get this down closer, and then we'll. Alright, so I got it set up. We're going down in straight now. One thing you want to remember when you're doing this is once it bottoms out on the bottom here, just give it just a little bit more, and then stop. You can't, once it bottoms out, you can't press it any farther. So just give it a little half pump once it bottoms out, and then you're done. Right there, it's kind of bottomed out, so I'm just going to give it like another little half pump, and that's good. You don't have to go any more. So now we'll take this out of the press here, and we have to press the hub in still. So let me get that set up over there, and I'll show you how I do it real quick on getting those braces off, and then we'll put it back together. Alright, so what we're doing here, we just got it in a vise, and we're going to cut an angle with it, angle into this with a cut-off wheel. Now I've already started. I won't have much to do. The compressor's probably going to kick on, and I'll shut the video off. So you're just going to come in and angle. You're not going to cut into the sub part. You're just going to cut into the race part. Alright, the compressor's on, so I'm going to wait till Alright, once you get the slit cut in, you should be able to take some, hit it and it should come loose. This one's split pretty good. Usually when they get this far, they slide right off. This thing's pretty rusty. That's coming, it's just coming slow. Not so much, mainly just rust. Like I said, normally these things just pop right off. This one's spinning, it still don't want to come off. Alright, so you can see here, I didn't go all the way through the race, a little bit, but I didn't hit the hub or anything. It's all clean. It's just really rusty, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in a buffing wheel and buff it off real good and lube it. And once you get this off, like I said, just go at an angle, take your time, takes a couple minutes, and once you get a nice little relief cut in there, they should pop off. Now normally when you get behind here and kind of pop on it, it'll just pop right off and slide right off, but this thing's so rusty, a little bit more challenging, but not too bad. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in a clean buffing wheel. We'll clean it up and lube it, and then we'll press it into that hub, and then we're ready to put it back, all of it back on the car. Alright, so I went ahead and put that snap ring in already. Just use your snap ring pliers and snap it back in. It's pretty simple. Now I got the hub upside down, and I got the bearing started in the bearing, and then I got a cap over here that will press down on the bearing and make sure it doesn't pop out. It shouldn't pop out anyway. I got that snap ring in there, but you want to get something that'll hold the inside of the bearing, because I have seen these bearings kind of come apart before when you're pressing this in, especially in the center. It'll kind of want to move, so just be careful. I'm just trying to center it right now the best I can. These usually press in pretty quick. You see it sliding right down in there. And once it bottoms out, you just quit. You don't go, just like the bearing, you don't go nuts with it. You kind of see it bottom out, and you'll feel it. Alright, so that's bottomed out. So I pushed through the bottom here, but all you do is just a little bit of a pump, and then you're good. So this is ready to go. We'll go ahead and put it back on the car and start putting it back together. Alright, one thing I almost forgot, because most bearings don't have this. You want to put this little shield back in. You want to line up your hole here with the hole in your knuckle, and just go ahead and tap it in. Go around slowly and tap it back in. Like I said, some bearings come with this new. This one didn't, so you have to be careful with it. If yours is have a new one, you can just beat it out and then be careful with the new one coming in. But I had to reuse the old one on this bearing, so just be careful and just be gentle with it. And once it seats up against that snap ring that you put back in, it's good to go. You can't go down any farther. So I didn't want to gloss over that or forget that, because I almost forgot it myself. I happened to walk over to the workbench to get a tool and saw it sitting there. So it's easy to forget, especially if you do a lot of these, and most of them don't have this. But anyway, we'll go ahead and start putting this back on the car and getting this thing back. Alright, so we're just going to try to start the ball joint and kind of get the axle out of the way at first. Just get one nut started on the ball joint. That'll kind of help hold everything while you're doing it. If I can find one. Alright, so I got one started on the ball joint, and then you'll just kind of feed the axle in. Kind of start everything loosely. I can't see what I'm doing. Hopefully I'm not in the way of the camera too much. Get my knee out of the way. Well, I'm just gonna kind of go around and start a few things. Helps to get the axle kind of seated in there a little bit. I don't know why this one's hassling me so much. Looks like it's perfectly straight, but it's not. Gotta keep my knee out of the camera, sorry about that. Alright, so all I'm going to do is just go around and start all the nuts and bolts. It's got the 3 down below for the ball joint. There's 2 nuts and 1 bolt, and that'll be real obvious once you're under there. Alright, and then still got this bottom one here. Being stubborn for some reason. wanting to go in, but just doesn't go in. Hold on one second. Alright, so I got it started. Just had to pull up on it a little bit. We'll go ahead and start the tie rod in. Just kind of get everything started loosely, and then we'll go around and tighten everything all at once. So I think all the points are lined up, so we'll go ahead and start hitting them all. I'm going to snug up the axle here, and then I'll get you the torque spec, what it's supposed to be once we get it. And you can easily, if you want to torque your axle spec, either put it on the ground, leave the hubcap off and torque it, or you can have someone hold the brake. I'm just going to go ahead and snug it right now, and then we'll torque it after we're done. Put it on the ground. Just don't forget to do it if you do it this way and snug it first. And then get the 24, and we'll do the struts real quick. And I think all the rest of it is 17 mil. Switch over to 17 and get those ball joints. Hopefully my head won't be in the way too bad. And then we're going to hit the tie rod at 17 too, or it should be. Let's put the cotter pin in on that. I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. Put the cotter pin in, and then we'll put the brakes back on. Alright, so I'm just putting the wheel sensor back in. I got it clamped up right here. You just put the plastic clamp back into the hole where it goes. There's two little holes on each side, and then you got a 10mm bolt. Once you slide it down in there, you have a 10mm bolt on this side. And you don't want to go too crazy torquing that. So once that's on, we can put the rotor back on. And I'm going to go ahead and turn the wheel back this way so I can see things a little bit easier. Alright, so I got the Caliper Bracket back on and started loosely. We'll go ahead and tighten that up real quick. Alright, and then all that's left now is the caliper. This brake pad's starting to come off. Just make sure your pads are seated back on there right. And these are now. So you should have your caliper hung off to the side. Go ahead and pull that off. And we'll slide it back in. You got your two bolts to hold it on. Hopefully not too much in the camera. It's 14mm bolts. Alright. So that's it. The only thing left to do would be to, if you don't have a helper with you, put the wheel on, leave the hubcap off, put it on the ground, and go ahead and torque this. The service manual says 217 foot-pound. If you have alloy wheels or whatever, get somebody to hold the brake for you, and go ahead and turn this to 217 foot-pounds. So I understand this probably isn't, with the press in and press out bearings, maybe not the average, you know, do-it-yourselfer type job. Not everybody has a press. But you can't, like I said before, you can't save money if you take this off and just take the knuckle to the machine shop. If you happen to have a press, you probably know how to do these anyway, and if you don't, then this is kind of how I do them. And anyway, so that's the front wheel bearings, press-in style, on a 2005 Toyota Sienna. I appreciate you watching. Hopefully we'll catch you on the next one or down the road. Have a good day, and God bless.